He refused to leave him behind. Bullets cut the air, smoke burned his lungs. And the weight of another man pressed heavy on his shoulders. Every step was pain, every breath was fire. Yet he carried on. Not for glory. Not for recognition. But because brotherhood, true brotherhood, cannot be broken. This is the story of a Marine who walked through hell itself, carrying his wounded friend for miles under fire. And it all began on a day when courage met its greatest test. The ground shook with the thunder of mortars. Dust and fire rained down, turning daylight into a haze of smoke and chaos. In the middle of that battlefield, one figure stood out, a Marine bent under the weight of another man, staggering forward through the storm. His boots sank into the dirt, knees buckling, yet he never let go. He had one vow in his heart. No man left behind. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. The mission was clear, the objective simple: secure the ground. Hold the line. But war never follows rules. And in one brutal instant, his comrade went down, torn by fire. Many would have stayed low, waited, or moved on to safety. But not him. He rose. He shouldered his friend. And he walked straight into the firestorm. He had always been different. Even as a young recruit, he carried himself with quiet discipline. While others joked and boasted, he was the one who listened. The one who noticed details others missed. His hands were calloused, his eyes steady, his silence carried weight. Those around him learned quickly, he wasn't a man of words. He was a man of action. Before the Marines, he was just a boy from a small town. His father worked long hours in a factory. His mother stitched together what little they had. He grew up knowing the value of hard work and the power of keeping your word. When he enlisted, it wasn't for adventure or applause, it was for duty. He believed in something larger than himself. Something worth every ounce of his strength. He had lost friends before. The memory of one in particular never left him. A childhood friend who never made it back from their first deployment. He had stood at that funeral, staring at the folded flag, promising himself that if he ever had the chance, he would not allow another brother to be left in the dirt alone. That vow became his compass. The firefight raged, and the world seemed to collapse into noise and fury. He could barely hear his own breath over the pounding of his heart. His friend's weight pressed against him, hot blood seeping into his uniform. Every step felt impossible. But giving up was not an option. Behind them, others called out, urging him to move faster, to drop the weight and save himself. But he only gritted his teeth and pushed harder. The straps of his rifle cut into his shoulder. The sweat stung his eyes, yet he carried on. Somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "Brotherhood is unbreakable." For miles they moved, inch by inch, through mud and broken ground. The sun beat down mercilessly, then gave way to darkness, yet his march never stopped. Hunger gnawed at him. Thirst dried his throat to sand. His muscles screamed for relief. Still, his grip never loosened. There were moments when shadows moved in the tree line. Enemy fire cracking nearby. He dropped to his knees, shielding his comrade's body with his own. He whispered no prayers. But his actions were prayer enough, living proof of loyalty in its purest form. The night air carried the scent of smoke and earth. His boots left deep impressions in the ground. A silent trail of devotion. Anyone who saw him knew, this was not about survival anymore. This was about a promise. By the time he staggered into camp, his body was nearly broken. His vision blurred. His arms trembled, and every breath rattled with exhaustion. But he refused to fall until his comrade was safely lowered to the medics. Only then did he collapse. Face to the dirt, not from weakness but from giving everything he had. In that silence, others gathered around him. No one mocked. No one doubted. They simply looked on with respect that words could not capture. One man whispered, "This is what brotherhood looks like." Years later, long after the battlefield had faded into memory, the Marine walked into a quiet room for a job interview. His hair was shorter now, streaked with the weight of time. His body bore scars, some visible, some hidden. He carried himself with the same silent dignity he always had. When the door opened, he froze. Sitting across from him was a face he thought he might never see again, the very man he had carried through fire. Alive. Whole. And now wearing the suit of an executive. Their eyes met. For a moment, no words were needed. The weight of years, the memory of that march, all spoke louder than anything they could say. Finally, the man behind the desk stood. His voice trembled as he whispered, "You carried me then. Let me carry you now." The interview never truly began. It ended with a handshake, a smile, and a bond that time could not touch. This is the power of unbreakable brotherhood. It is not written in medals or shouted in speeches. It is carved in silence, in sacrifice. In the quiet steps of a man who refuses to leave another behind. Some stories live forever because they remind us of who we are at our best. And this story carries one truth we should all remember: courage is not the absence of fear. It is carrying another when your own strength is gone. The Marine's silence became his greatest strength. In the face of fire, he spoke through action. In the face of exhaustion, he answered with endurance. And in the end, the world saw what honor truly looks like, not in medals or speeches, but in the dirt-stained march of a man carrying his brother home. When his story was told, people rose, not in applause, but in silent respect. And so, the Marine who carried his friend carried far more than a single man that day. He carried a lesson for all of us, that true strength is not about how far you go alone, but how far you go for someone else. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us where you're watching from. And if you believe stories of courage and sacrifice should never be forgotten, subscribe for more stories that honor true silent heroes. Because some stories remind us that humanity is strongest when it carries one another.